not to sound the warning sirens.
Listen to this.
Had to take a civil service exam. I was interviewed by seasoned emergency managers, and they all deemed me qualified. In fact, I was selected. So that's.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not. And the reason why, and
So many people said they could have been saved if they had time to escape. Had a siren gone off, they would have known that there was a crisis emerging. And as we know, so many bodies were found in the ground as the flames
Do you want him to give you the answer?
I do, but I want to get it out there.
Let him finish his
I'm
answer.
sorry, there's a lot of people.
Well, you're
who
talking,
want
you're not letting him
answers.
talk. If you want to talk, come up here.
I'm ready for the answer.
Then wait.
the public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. In fact, on the website of the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, the following guideline is provided. If you are in a low-lying area near the coastline, evacuate to high grounds, inland or vertically to the fourth floor and higher of a concrete building. Alerts may also come in the form of a wireless emergency alert. Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Malka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
Says that if you rang the sirens, people might have gone up ground toward the fire and not away from the fire. The death toll now stands at 111 people. It will rise. Would those people still have died if those sirens went off? There's also heavy scrutiny on Hawaiian Electric. New data from a private energy grid monitoring company says there were 34 incidents on the power lines around Lahaina the night before the fire started, including this one, a sudden flash on the line 20 miles outside of the beachfront town. Joining me now from Maui is NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin. Talk to me about this energy grid monitoring system and the new suspicions that this all started because of a downed power line.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now that Hawaiian Electric has been hit with a fourth lawsuit. And part of our reporting on NBCNews.com claims that Hawaiian Electric, according to these lawsuits, helped set the stage for the wildfires through years of negligence and failure to have plans to shut down power systems before fierce winds blew across Maui. Now, Hawaiian Electric is not commenting on that pending litigation, but they say right now their focus is on trying to get power restored to some 2,000 customers. It's important to note that a lot of those customers still have burned down homes, so it's unclear what the true number of the impact is for people who are still living here in Lahaina. Hawaiian Electric says that they are also looking into claims that utility workers may have blocked off the entrance, the main road out of Lahaina, because they were trying to install power poles, according to some witnesses that spoke with NBC. They say, these witnesses say that they blocked the outbound lane or the incoming lane as they were trying to flee, and they said that made no sense. We were telling the crews to get out of the way so that we can escape. So this is all setting the stage for a lot of investigation into the power company, whether there was a down line. We saw a video from another resident who says the fire started in his backyard, and he showed us some down power lines and smoke. So these are all things that will be investigated. We spoke with one of the attorneys representing this class action lawsuit. Listen to what he had to say.
We've alleged negligence in the case. We've also alleged strict liability. We have a claim for what's called ultra hazardous activity. And for that, specifically what we are alleging there is that the ultra hazardous activity was keeping the power running during this very serious wind event and in advance of it. This wasn't some fire that ignited on some giant piece of private land off in the middle of a ranch or the wilderness somewhere when a line hits another line. This happened in someone's backyard.
And we are even seeing more Lahaina residents show up today, many wearing masks and gaiters, trying to protect themselves as they go into these toxic areas. Many people encouraged to wear N95 masks and to wear gloves and wash your hands because the soil is contaminated here. Katie?
Dana Griffin. Dana, thank you very much. Joining me now is Maui County Council Chair Alice Lee. Thank you very much for being with us. It seems just like everything went wrong. The sirens didn't go off. The electric company didn't turn off the power lines. The text messages didn't go through because the cell signals were down. What are you doing right now to get to the bottom of this response?
Well, Hi, Katie. Thank you for inviting us here. We are part of the legislative branch, and so we're not the boots on the ground group. We will be looking into this matter of the siren and the power issue probably in the next few weeks. But the governor has already initiated an investigation by his attorney general. So you can expect more and more information to surface in the coming weeks, coming months. So it's really hard at this point for us to speculate exactly what happened when we don't have all the facts available to us at this point.
As the Maui County Chair, how do you feel about Herman and Daya's decision not to sound the sirens?
I'd hate to speculate. I don't know all the facts. I know he gave the explanation at the press conference, and again,
Are there
I don't
more
think
facts you need to know
real.
respectfully on this? Is there more you need to know? The sirens didn't go off. There are now 111 people dead. That number is expected to rise. They haven't even searched half of the burned area.
Well, I would assume that there's a protocol for making those decisions. I don't think he makes, I'm guessing that he doesn't make decisions unilaterally. So I would need to see who did he check with, what was the criteria, what was the protocol, did he follow all the rules and regulations? I don't know.
Do you think if the sirens had gone off that people would have taken to the mountains and run toward the fire instead of maybe looking outside and realizing that they should get out of the town?
Again, I hate to speculate because right now we are so focused on research, on search and recovery. And these other issues, although they are very significant, they are underway in terms of in information gathering and investigation. But I don't want to let you think that I'm trying to evade the question. I'll say that as a person who's born and raised on Maui, if I heard that siren, generally it pertains to tsunami warnings, generally. And as a tsunami warning, you would not run inland. You wouldn't run to the ocean because that's where the tsunami is coming from. You would run inland. So, but then again, that's my opinion only. That's not a fact in terms of what the protocol is or what the criteria is in making decisions with regard to turning on the siren or the alert systems.
Has anybody ever thought, whenever it comes to civilian whistles like that, that we need to have different alarms for different things? You know, on a tsunami should have one type of alarm. If it was a fire, it should be another type of alarm. If it's a volcano eruption, it should be another different sounding alarm. And educate the people. That way they'll know that this alarm, it goes off, is for this reason, and this alarm goes off. You need to ground them and keep grounding them again and again and again. Because my phone, you know, if it bings, it means this. If my phone tweets, it means this. And if my phone rings, I answer it. And then again, if I'm talking to somebody and somebody tries to call in, I can hit the middle button and I can either say call back later, or I'll get back with you later, or call me back later, or something. You know what I'm saying? There's too many variations where whenever it comes to people's safety, this is just my personal opinion about it now, because I'm not a professional neither whenever it comes to this stuff. But I do know that the whistle alarms did not activate whenever the tornado that come up right over my house, basically, it hit Kenton, Tennessee, hit New Bern, and then it hit Dresden, Tennessee. That was one of the tornadoes that kept on going until it got up towards, I guess, Clarksville somewhere. And then the other tornado is the one that dropped out of the sky that went up through parts of Arkansas and Missouri, and it jumped over the Mississippi River, and it hit places over by Real Flint Lake, and then he kept on going until it hit Hickman, Kentucky, and then it kept on going until almost hit the Indiana state line. I personally think this is a logical, scientific reason, is that whenever a force field is that powerful, it absolutely is almost like a jamming system. And because the electrical occurrences in something like that has basically went off the charts, it could actually jam different systems that is supposed to do different things. Now, in the occasion with the deal with Hawaii, it was no tornado. All it was just severe winds. That's the reason why I lean more towards it being superficial, that it was planned by evil, demonic, wicked force that knowed exactly what to do and how to do it, just like the evil, demonic force knowed exactly what to do of preventing Hawaii, whenever it got attacked, pertaining to Pearl Harbor, jammed all their military frequencies to the point that they had no earthly idea that they was fixing to get hit. There has to be a reason, even if it is a supernatural reason, of the reason why these occurrences continue to keep happening, and we really don't have no logical explanation for them. There has to be. Because you can't create something out of nothing. There has to be a reason why that it's being done. And I guess whenever all else fails, that's whenever you lean towards the supernatural, is that it was being done. And people needs to quit blaming God for everything. It was not God that created a storm while Jesus was sleeping in the boat that was going to bring destruction to not only the people that Jesus was with in the boat, but also to bring destruction to Jesus. It was not God that created that storm. And they awoke in Jesus and said, Master, Master, don't you care that we're all fixing to perish? Because he was in a dead sleep. And as soon as he realized what was going on, he said, rebuke thee in the name of the Father. And the storm just immediately broke up and went away. We don't understand a lot of the forces that we ourselves have created, that we have to participate in on a day-to-day level pertaining to AI. And we for darn sure don't understand all the forces of nature pertaining to the supernatural forces. People are going to have to waken up. They're going to have to become awakened that these demonic forces are real. Now they'll play it off here in America. I don't know if it goes on everywhere else in the world, because I've never been all over the world. But they'll play it off here in America, pertaining to Hollywood, that paranormal behavior is something kind of cool, or maybe it's kind of creepy, or maybe it's kind of unusual. But the fact of the matter is, Jesus Christ, not one time that you can read in the Bible, never, I repeat, never looked upon his adversary in a jokative, humorous type way. Never did. And the reason why is because Jesus Christ was in tune towards the seriousness of the supernatural, because he himself was created from the supernatural. Keep in mind, it was Virgin Mary that wound up being impregnated by a supernatural entity pertaining to God. And Jesus had the ability to identify, hey, you don't need to play around with this stuff. And I'm sure that there was times that Jesus clapped his hands. I'm sure there was times that Jesus put little children on his lap. I'm sure that there was time that Jesus wept with the people. I'm sure that there was time that Jesus celebrated with the people. Okay? Jesus was a human being as far as having the same characteristics as any other human. He had emotions. He had desires. He had temptations. He had feelings. And this is another part that the world in general wants to stereotype people like Jesus, or like Moses, or like Noah, or like some of the other prophets in the Bible, or even people today that are very, very strongly spiritually discerned, they want to automatically put them into some sort of a little category that, wow, this person must be this way, or this person must be that way. No, we're normal people. The Christian people upon the planet are truly normal people. We just got different opinions, and we have different priorities. To where the wicked and the demonic, the lost, they could care less if they got if they was slipping around in bed from one bedroom to another, or whether or not they was stealing or killing or conniving or whatever. They could care less about that because they do not care about their eternal soul. Or they just don't believe. The devil's got them so blinded that they just don't believe that there is such thing as a devil, that there is a such thing as accountability, that there is such thing as these supernatural forces. One or the other. It has to be one or the other. Either they don't care, or they've already done sold their soul out to the devil to begin with. And because of it, now they're that much more sneakier. They're that much more conniver. And even Jesus verified that in his teachings by saying that they would come in the last days in sheep's clothing, but would be ravaging wolves inside. So there's going to be people that's going to be true blue manipulators in the last days. They're going to know their heart's intent is to become a conniver, is to become a imposter. And there ain't but one way, because some of these imposters are really, really good. There ain't but one way to determine, in lots of cases, in an imposter, which would be, are you willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice for your belief, the way that Jesus Christ was willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice for his? Through the Heavenly Father, through the teachings of Jesus, through believing in Jesus Christ. And of course we can see how things materialized in the past 30 plus years whenever I stepped out into the eyes of the people and everybody started teaching, oh, it's too strong, it's too strong. Oh, this is too much of a load. Oh, he's trying to dump the load off on all of us all at once, like the little farmer. Instead of just feeding his cows a bale or two at a time, he just dumped out the whole load on us. No, it's the fact that people need to wake up. And we are only here for a certain length of time, and we are in the physical form. And it's only because of God the Father that gives us any type of abilities to understand any of this stuff. Regardless whether it's a fire, regardless whether it's two airplanes. I mean, why in the world didn't our military, especially over New York on the East Coast, why didn't our military get fully alerted shortly within seconds after the first airplane run into the tower, the first tower? Was it that much mass confusion? Or did the lines get jammed? And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't until the second tower run into the tower was that's basically whenever the government stepped in and ordered for all the aviation to come out of the sky, and that's whenever they determined that there was two other airplanes that was basically at large. But it took the second plane. Now, I don't know what the time differences was between the first plane and the second plane, but it looks to me like, it was several minutes. I guess it was almost an hour, or right about an hour. I don't know. I don't have the material in front of me, but I know it was several minutes after the first tower got hit that the second tower got hit. How come there wasn't Air Force scrambled in the sky immediately, within seconds after the first plane run into the airplane? You know why? Because we was bewildered, and we was thinking not the worst, but we was thinking the worst in the category, oh my God, what a accident. What a accident that's going to go in the history book towards being the worst of all accidents that's ever occurred. That's what we was thinking. We was thinking in the time frame of it being accidental. But our military, with them being trained the way that they're trained, they shouldn't have been thinking accidental. They should have immediately had firepower up in the sky, just like whenever the daggum spy balloon flew over America. How come that spy balloon wasn't immediately blown out of the sky just about the time it got to the Canada-America border, somewhere up in Montana or Minnesota or North Dakota or wherever up there? I've never been quite that far north, not in that particular area. I have been in Canada before, but not over in that part of the neck of the woods. But how come? How come we're just assuming that everything is hunky-dory, or whenever something does happen, oh, it's this person's fault, oh, it's that person's fault? I understand what they're talking about as far as alerting the people, and the people thinking that it was going to be a tidal wave, an tsunami, and them running towards the center of the island. I understand their concept, but at the same time, did everybody run to the center of the island whenever the sirens went off, whenever they thought that North Korea was fixing to blow them up with a nuclear bomb? There should be different signals given indicating whether or not we need to go to the far right or far to the far left. And that just shouldn't be over in Hawaii. That should be right here in the United States. And if other countries don't practice that, well, that'll be up to them. But I'm telling you, whenever it comes to the safety and the security of our people, our government has failed again and again and again and again. Just like allowing for all this crap to come online pertaining to the internet, thinking, oh, how cool it is, and now we're finding out that it's literally causing suicides and divorces and everything else unimaginable because people cannot adapt to what has been dumped into our laps, much less our own government putting up safety guards towards preventing people from coming in and hacking us through the back door, stealing our information, stealing our personal information. I mean, I've just never seen so much wildness going on the planet, especially here in America. And we're supposed to be the strongest and the smartest and the most powerfulest nation above all other nations here upon to the planet. And we're steadily seeing all these mistakes continually going on. I'm telling you, what drove that wind was a supernatural force. But before the supernatural force actually drove the wind, it had done already said, okay, we're going to have to do this, this, and this to make this happen. And you know what? It did. It did. I still blame myself because within 2 minutes before we got in trouble on the water pertaining to our pontoon boat almost tipping over, something spoke within my soul and said, put on your life jacket. Even though up until then, even though my life jacket was just right there beside me, there had not been no complications at all for the past 3 days with the boat gonna capsize. We're talking about a pontoon boat. A pontoon boat's supposed to be one of the safest, right? Wasn't that day. It wasn't that day. And I almost drowned it. It almost costed me my life because I didn't listen to my inner self. You know, whenever that occurs in your life, a time or two, you eventually start wising up. And you eventually start listening to your inner self. You start listening to your instincts. You start listening to something that's trying to tell you, hey, something's fixing to happen. Get ready, get ready, get ready. You know, don't everybody have God pertaining to guardian angels. So they're going to have to depend upon the government with different security alarms to be able to help them to be able to get through the next day or you know, get through this life that's become so complex. And as far as I'm concerned, regardless whether it was the electric company, regardless whether it was the principalities themselves towards not alerting alarms, whatever, they have failed the will of their own citizens. Just like whenever 9/11 happened. That second airplane never should have hit that second tower.
It's such a horrifying situation, and we feel for everybody out there, and especially those who have lost everything, including their loved ones, and are still waiting to hear from others that are missing. Every day that we cover this story, it just seems to get worse. But we do appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on and answering our questions. Maui County Chair Alice Lee, thank you very much.
Thank you, and if I may say one thing,
Go ahead.
if you want to make donations, please, you can send your donations to mauicounty.gov. And right now, we're asking for financial donations because a lot of the people are transitioning out of their emergency shelters into temporary shelters and have different kinds of needs. So if you could, cash donations would really be helpful at this point. And thank you so
MauiCounty.gov.
But once more, you can give somebody all the money in the world that's never going to be able to replace that person's laughs, that person's emotions, that person's desires, that person's happiness, that person's sadness. You'll never be able to replace a person with money. Just like we can never do enough for the men and women in uniform that sacrifice every day for our liberty and freedom. You'll never be able to replace that human being that made that sacrifice. Please, if there's ever been a time that people needed to stay very, very alert in what's going on, it is today, because these are only prophecies coming true that the Bible talks about, that Satan will come down in great wrath in the last days, because it or he, whichever category you want to put it in, knows its time is short. It never was for the human race. Those that worship Satan, those that play along with Ouija boards and tarot cards, and those that thinks that it's cool or funny by creating all these paranormal movies and exorcist movies and people being possessed and all this other stuff, it thinks it's entertaining. Trust me, it is not entertaining. It is not to be taken lightly. We are in a spiritual warfare. This is not romper room. This is the real deal. People's lives can be destroyed just within a matter of seconds if we do not catch hold towards understanding what we're up against. And I continue to keep saying that, and I don't know if I'm getting any response. I don't know if anybody's listening to me. I don't know if they just are still taking me personally as a joke, because so many people have taken the gospel as a joke as far as I'm concerned. They say that they believe. They say that they're followers of Christ, but yet no, they get out here and live like the devil. I mean, yeah, everybody wants Jesus to be their Savior, but it apparently, I mean, proof is in the pudding that don't too many people really want Jesus to be their Lord. There's a big difference in Jesus being your Savior and Jesus being your Lord. If Jesus is your Lord, you're going to try to do things appropriate to satisfy your Lord. You're not going to be belligerent and do things intentionally to make your Lord mad. I don't think the people in America, they have been given everything in the world and been spoiled, and I really think that the majority of them really don't know how to, I guess the right word would be pursue your elegancy, or your highness, your lordship, sir master. I really don't think that the American people have been taught in qualifying to be able to do that, because so many of them make fun of judges, they make fun of the government, they make fun of the law, they disrespect the law, they run from the law, they just don't care. They act like that it's going to be a life of thrill, and who cares? And because of our liberal politicians and liberal attorneys and liberal doctors, we have made our law in America basically be a mockery. It's a mockery. But yet, no, they want to attack people like me. They want to make the Christian people's lives miserable, while they'll let a drug dealer or a pedophile or somebody just got through raping some little girl and destroying her life, they'll let that person go. Now, you can't tell me that this country has not been turned totally upside down pertaining to our government and our laws. It's a disgrace. And for the things that's going on right now up in the White House is an absolute an abomination. It's an abomination that if our ancestors was alive that helped to formulate this great nation, that sacrificed what they sacrificed during the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, they would look at what's going on today as it being an abomination. And that's exactly the way that it should be looked upon. Thanks again for listening. Good luck for all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. God bless our endeavors. And please, please pray for the victims of those that has went through so much severely damaging environment situations over in the Hawaii Islands. That, and to me, compares to 9/11. It's not very, very far from 9/11, and it's not very, very far from Pearl Harbor and what has recently just happened over in the Hawaii Islands. God bless. Shalom, and good luck to all of us.